Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Curious Minds. Today, our topic is Chapter 5 of Sociology Class 12th, which is Patterns of Social Inequality and Exclusion. And this is part 2 of the video. Before I start, I would like to apologize for not uploading the video early and for our viewers also and subscribers also. Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Please support us. It was just that we were facing certain problems because of which we couldn't upload the video earlier. But we promise that from today onwards, we'll be uploading it in regular intervals. For example, if like we will upload a video today, then by day after tomorrow, there'll be the next part of this video. Okay, so without further ado, let's start with the topic. Today we'll be starting with 5.2, and that is caste and tribe, systems justifying and perpetuating inequality. Okay, so the caste system as a discriminatory system. So it is a distinct social institution that legitimizes and enforces practices of discrimination. So here we are doing what is caste system. As we've already understood it earlier, it is a social institution and it enforces discrimination, it legitimizes discrimination, or all these practices, these are humiliating, these are exclusionary, these are exploitative. So therefore, one can say basically historically the caste system has been classified by occupation of the people and the status of the people. Now every caste is associated with a certain occupation, right? Therefore, persons born into a particular caste, they were also born into a particular occupation. We all know because what happened was occupations did not change. So every caste had a particular occupation. So that means that now that occupation were associated with their caste, they had no choice. So like we already studied, no, people are born into a caste. So at that time, people were born into an occupation too. Now each caste also had a specific place in the hierarchy of social status. That also we know. We also know that there are 4 varnas, etc. Okay? So therefore one can say that social and economic status, they were sharply separated as there were occupational categories which were further divided too. So here we are understanding caste system as in different dimensions. First is social and second is economic. So both varied. Okay, how? Because occupation also was different and there were categories under it. So occupational categories also were further divided. So after this we are going to study an example, okay, which is, for example, let's take a case study of Brahmins and the kings, okay, the rulers. So as we start, Brahmins are the ritually highest caste, we know, but they were also subordinate to the secular power of the kings, but they were below the king when it came to power, okay, secular power. But kings, they were subordinated to Brahmins where in the ritual religious sphere. So in the ritual religious sphere, Brahmins had the upper hand, but otherwise the kings had the upper hand. Okay, so these Brahmins, when the king was subordinate, this was basically in strict scriptural terms. Okay, but in actual practice what happened was economic and social status coincided. So like I've already said that occupation and status varied and caste varied, but in general practice what happened was generally high caste almost invariably had high economic status also. See, here also I've put an upward arrow. Please write high instead of it because in exams such arrows cannot be used. Okay, so and low caste had lower economic status. So they are saying that the high caste people had good economic status, okay, in actual practice. So particularly since the 19th century, the link between caste and occupation has become less rigid. Therefore the distinctions have weakened, but still not much has changed. As we already know that still there is a certain status of society, like certain sections of society which still perform that particular occupation only. Example, it is still true that the privileged means people who have higher economic status, that privileged sections belong mostly to upper caste. Still, it is true in certain cases. It is not a general rule, okay? It is not a universal rule. It's an exception. In some cases, it still holds true. Therefore, it can be said that despite changed modes of production, attempts by the state to suppress it, caste continues to affect Indians in 21st century. Now, state has also tried to suppress it. Like there have been many laws and everybody can do what they want. But the thing is that still it affects India. Now, the next part we will study is untouchability. Now, what is untouchability? We've already studied it earlier, but then it prescribes stringent social sanctions against members of caste which are located at bottom of purity pollution scale. Now, purity pollution scale has already been discussed in a different video. So we all know that pollution is basically lower caste because they were indulged in certain activities which were considered more polluted than the others, and therefore this scale, it was basically the distinctions were based on this scale only. So there were certain social sanctions, and this is why untouchability is basically stringent social sanctions. Okay. Now, untouchable castes, they're considered outside caste hierarchy, as they're considered so impure that their mere touch severely pollutes members of other castes. So this was what was thought of the untouchable castes. So now if something like this happened, if if any member of some other caste were polluted, there would have been in some cases there was terrible punishment for the former, okay, but elaborate purification rituals for the latter. So who were purified? The other caste people. Who were punished? The untouchable castes. So this was it. Now, next concept is distance pollution. Now, distance pollution existed particularly in the south, and this was where even the mere presence or the shadow of the untouchable person is considered polluting. Distance pollution, the name is only suggesting, okay. Now, there are three main dimensions of untouchability. First is exclusion, second is humiliation, subordination, and third is exploitation. Now, what is exclusion? Exclusion is like some people, people from some castes, they are prohibited from sharing drinking water sources. And then collective worship is also banned, and social ceremonies, they cannot attend social ceremonies. So such kind of exclusion is seen. Okay, so this is one dimension of untouchability. Second can be humiliation and subordination. Like humiliation is sometimes, they are forced to do a certain acts which are publicly visible. For example, inclusion also, they're forced included. So that is also humiliating because there are some people from some castes, they are they're supposed to play drums at religious ceremonies and they're visible also. So this is a kind of humiliation. Sometimes they have to carry footwear in hand and they have to stand with bowed head. So this is subordination also because they're forcefully included, plus they're not included to attend the ceremonies, rather just to play drums. Okay, so this is second dimension. Now third is exploitation. Exploitation is where they are forced for unpaid labor and then their property is confiscated. So this kind of exploitation is also seen in untouchability. So next is, therefore, untouchability is a pan-Indian phenomena, though it is true that its intensity may vary. Now it is not different in different places. It has manifested itself in different dimensions also. The intensity has majorly varied. Untouchables have been referred by many names, many of which were derogatory. Okay. Now Mahatma Gandhi popularized the term Harijan, which was children of God. However, it is Dalit. The term is Dalit, which is generally accepted term for referring to these groups. The Dalit means downtrodden, and it resonates with the Ambedkar's philosophy. Though it is important to note that he was not the first person to coin it. He did not coin the term Dalit, but it resonates with his philosophy. Okay. So this is the first part of 5.2. The second part of 5.2 will be uploaded on Saturday, which will be 21st of this month. So if you haven't seen other chapters or other videos, please have a look at those videos too. And please don't forget to share and subscribe. Stay at home, stay safe, and do study hard. Thank you.